Has the FBI gone rogue? This is a question many of us are asking and are concerned about, since the FBI is tasked with the safety of all US citizens, from domestic threats such as terrorism and organized crime, to the corruption of the public office. No mean brief, and with it comes a great deal of power. So what do I think? Stick around and we'll take a look at the evidence. Well, hello fellow Grumpies. Welcome to the Grumpy Grandpa channel, where we critique major issues and conspiracies that concern we, the people. I'm your host, the Grumpy Grandpa. So, has the FBI gone rogue? To help answer this, let's look at a brief history of why the agency was set up in the first place, as a kind of a context. Send your mind back. It's July 26, 1908. My grandmother is 8 years old. And Attorney General Charles Bonaparte orders newly formed federal investigators to report to the Chief Examiner Stanley Finch of the Justice Department. This is the genesis of the FBI. Previous to this, the Department of Justice had no permanent investigators on its staff and usually hired private detectives as needed. It also used Secret Service agents when necessary. This is an agency that was created in 1865 by the Department of the Treasury to investigate counterfeiting. It was from this outfit that 10 of its staff were hired to form the new Federal Bureau of Investigation. You see, just like today, crime was a mounting problem. Cities were growing at a fast pace across the nation, and so were the lawbreakers. The FBI was seen as the first systematic way of enforcing the law across the country. As a result, the FBI is endowed with a unique mandate that transforms it into a truly formidable force. And in case you're wondering, one of the few federal agencies with the legal right to break down your door at any time and have you on the ground before you can say, "What the f*** is the FBI?" Now, the following is a description of the FBI's mandate from the Department of Justice, and I quote, "The Federal Bureau of Investigation's mission is to protect the U.S. from foreign intelligence and terrorist activities, investigate violations of federal criminal law, and provide leadership and assistance to other law enforcement agencies. It is the principal investigative arm of the Department of Justice and has the broadest jurisdiction of any federal criminal justice agency. It is authorized to investigate more than 200 categories of federal crimes. The FBI criminal investigative functions fall into the categories of counterterrorism, including cybercrime, foreign counterintelligence, organized crime, drugs, violent crimes and major offenders, white-collar crime, and civil rights." End quote. Now, its founding was based on legitimate concerns, as we have seen. But there were those in Congress who opposed the fledgling agency because they feared that its growing authority could lead to an abuse of power. A sign of things to come, maybe? Now, the opponents of the new agency saw that an entity as powerful as the FBI must always be kept on a short leash, at least in terms of public accountability, because with great power comes great responsibility. But unfortunately, since those early days, and human nature being what it is, the agency has fast changed from a protector of the weak into a monstrous instrument of oppression. And I will show this to be a fact and not merely a theory. You see, during the past number of years, the FBI has become a puppet of political interest, with anti-American goals in favor of a more globalist agenda. And because of this program, the agency has gone way out of control. What follows are blatant indicators of FBI corruption and what can only be described as treason. Anyone who follows the news as it is truthfully reported, and that takes some doing, I can tell you. I recommend independent journalists, by the way. Anyone looking at independent news will see the flagrant disregard of lawful authority that exists within the FBI. They openly flaunt the contempt for the rule of law to pursue the agenda of their political overlords. Of course, I am mainly talking about the upper echelons of the agency and not necessarily the boots on the ground, though there are agents involved in this perversion of justice, admittedly. And so it appears that the FBI is being granted the option to go beyond the scope of its original mandate and is evidently purging and silencing political dissent. This should be a great worry for those of us who respect the rule of law and want to believe the government has our best interests at heart. If only. Also, those who applaud the subversive behavior of the FBI, and they're out there, those who support the agency's politically biased actions just because they may align with personal ideology, for example, such people may be staunch far-left libtards and hate people like Trump or any right-winger for that matter. Such individuals should realize that once a line has been crossed, there is usually no going back, and anyone can then be the next target, even the libtard themselves. And you can believe me when I say they will be extremely vocal when it happens to them. You see, by these subversive actions, the FBI has unlocked the door to abuse and oppression. Pandora's box has been opened, and the wall of liberty has been breached. And now, potentially, everyone is in the crosshairs. The libtard also. If this is happening, and I obviously believe it to be so, then it's huge. We have whistleblowers in different field offices accusing bureau management of corruption and cover-ups, with retaliation being taken against the rank-and-file agents trying to expose it. According to the Washington Times, whistleblower accusations allege that current and past FBI executives have forced or coerced agents to sign false affidavits, fabricated terrorism cases to pump up performance statistics, sexually harassed and stalked female agents, and engaged in sexual acts with subordinates in government vehicles. Whew. According to one of the whistleblowers, the FBI has a mob-like mentality. I assume by that they mean organized crime mentality. And the same FBI agent alleges supervisors, including FBI Director Christopher Wray, disregarded her claims of sexual harassment. She also allegedly said, and I quote, "The FBI is completely out of control, and its culture and structure needs to change. Not only is the political bias completely out of control and disgustingly obvious, the FBI knows it will not be held accountable for their illegal behavior and misconduct." End quote. Now that's very telling. If you think that is nothing but hyperbole, this chicanery is most clearly seen with the Hillary Clinton email cover-up and the FBI's pivotal role in undermining Donald Trump's presidential campaign. And I'm absolutely astonished that there is no significant public outcry condemning the FBI's action. If there is, I haven't seen it. There are pockets of protests, but the criminal media is actively shielding the corrupt agency, apparently with good effect. The FBI relies, you see, on this cooperation, both from the press and the US citizen, to continue its illegal activities. As I said earlier, just because you might not like the person who is currently and illegally under investigation for political reasons, or should be under investigation and isn't also for political reasons, whoever that may be at the time doesn't excuse the act or the failure to act. Because the next time legal decisions that affect you or me are made, we want to be sure that they are made impartially and the results justifiable. In simple terms, we want honesty and justice, which cannot be guaranteed with a fraudulent DOJ. Back to Clinton and the private server email scandal. Is it any wonder grumpy old buggers like me believe the system to be rigged when it comes to the elites like the Clintons? FBI Director at the time, James Comey, fully admitted Hillary Clinton committed a crime, and she is unable to use carelessness as an excuse and should be punished by a substantial fine or 10 years in prison. but she was still allowed to remain free without consequence. Comey admitted that there were 110 emails in 52 email chains on Corrupt Hillary's several servers, and was found to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. Additionally, the FBI concluded that hostile actors may have acquired access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account. She obviously, intentionally and knowingly handled sensitive data on a number of servers that were probably compromised by foreign agents. And although Comey used a variation of the term intentional at least 6 times during his address, he gave Clinton a defense for her behavior, saying that she was simply very careless. Who was he to make that judgment? There's something very rotten in Washington, D.C. swamp. As far as I'm able to determine, gross negligence is still a criminal offence according to laws referring to the gathering, transmitting, or loss of classified information. Not to mention the degree of utter naivete required to believe that Clinton's entire course of action was unintentional. In other words, no intent to see her, folks, move along. It was all just a big mistake. Clinton clearly broke the law and got away with it. And corrupt Comey has now made ignorance a valid excuse to circumvent any crime. Except for Trump and other political entities like him, of course. Again, disregard your feelings for the man and concentrate on the facts. Your feelings have nothing to do with this. They have no place here, just as they wouldn't as a juror in a court of law, because this is about the rule of law and justice. As a juror, your job is just to digest the facts and disregard personal biases. Because when the establishment shows hostility towards anyone, in this case former President Trump, and has contempt for at least half of the American people, this is the real danger to democracy, and not the kind of pantomime sketches played out by both parties during the midterm elections. Do you remember Biden saying as a means to scare the herd, democracy is on the ballot? Democracy is the bloody ballot, idiot. Democracy is the right to vote. Good God, where do we find these people? The FBI lied to judges about the fake Russian dossier. Do you remember the one paid for by the Clinton campaign? The FBI had 2 years to follow up on the Hunter Biden laptop scandal and didn't. Let's go back further. Sandy Berger, a former national security advisor for the Clinton administration, was given a slap on the wrist, a mere $50,000 fine, and a temporary revocation of his security clearance when he was found physically putting sensitive materials about 9/11 down his pants while inside the National Archives. Back to the present. In order to find a judge to sign its warrant to raid Mar-a-Lago, Trump's home in Florida, the FBI went judge shopping. Agents discovered a judge who had twice given money to Barack Obama and had defended Jeffrey Epstein, a man who had been found guilty of child molestation, which is besides the point, and was allegedly close to former President Bill Clinton. Do you smell conflict of interest here? This judge would have approved anything that was intended to harm Trump. The FBI is now rebranded, in my eyes, the left-wing secret police because of its conceit, aggression and arrogance leveled against the right wing. And I would be saying exactly the same thing if it was the left wing that was targeted. This is not one-sided. I repeat again, this is about justice and the rule of law because it affects all of us. The FBI's idea of integrity is very different from the typical American idea of justice, truth-seeking, and law enforcement. The weaponizing of government departments is not new. Remember the IRS scandal with the Tea Party? This shocking revelation was made by a senior IRS official. Remember conservative organizations with names like Tea Party or Patriots that were applying for tax-exempt non-profit status were singled out by IRS employees who zeroed in on them to see if they were misusing the tax code in relation to political activities. They coerced and questioned these conservative organizations about their donors, etc. Furthermore, there is currently no proof that the IRS has afforded any non-conservative groups the same kind of attention in such a systematic manner. This seems to have been orchestrated by IRS employees themselves and not the White House officials, but it still was a politically driven enterprise for which the IRS has apologized and made reparations. We now have the Biden administration hiring thousands more IRS agents to be let loose on the American public. It's obvious just from these facts alone that something has to be done. But will it? I fear this goes far too deep for an easy fix. The deep state is too entrenched, its power solidified to such an alarming extent that it's going to take an act of God to remedy this state of affairs. And don't look to the bewildered herd either. They really don't give a damn, having all they can handle with keeping up with the out-of-control inflation and high gas prices and the latest developments with the Kardashians. Are they still around? Besides, let's face it, many just don't have the intellectual capacity to figure out what's right and what's wrong. That's just a fact. Walter Lippmann may have been correct when he branded them the bewildered herd. Yep, that's it. I think it's also true that such people would rather vote for a corrupt government if they think they will get something in return, not realizing they are signing away their freedoms and destroying the economy, shooting themselves in the foot at the same time. Such is their lack of integrity and foresight. Is it the case all we can do is sit back and watch the descent into authoritarian dystopia? I hope not, though I'm increasingly pessimistic about the whole situation. During the midterms, the American people had an opportunity to at least try and remedy things. A red wave was forecast, the destruction of crazy far-left rule assured. Instead, we had a trickle. Many voted for business as usual, especially here in Minnesota. The Minnesota Moo Cows came out as a herd, bewildered and befuddled as usual, and put their cross on the ballot for more of the same. However, enough people did vote to confirm a House majority, however slim, and at least guarantee an investigation into FBI corruption and other issues like the Hunter Biden sleaze. I don't know how this will play out, but at least something is going to be done. And who knows, maybe enough honest journalistic coverage will be given to the findings so that the herd sits up and takes note. The Hunter Biden probe has already been launched by the GOP since they have taken control of the House of Representatives. And maybe we'll see some justice. And Joe Biden actually facing that justice in the form of impeachment for his role in his son's illegal dealings with the Ukraine and China. I'm not holding my breath though. We need to recall that those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And we have enough examples in history to keep the readers among you busy for a long time. You might want to begin with the fall of Rome. Take a look at how societies destroy themselves from the inside out. I'm hoping against hope that the US isn't in the final stages of societal dementia and will remember the consequences of inaction. Well, thank you for staying to the end. And fellow Grumpies, I hope to see you the next time when we will find something else to gripe about. And if you have a grumpy member of the family who might be interested, tell them about this channel where they won't be alone in their grouchiness, ill temper, and crabby disposition. They'll have friends here. I'm your host, the Grumpy Grandpa.